This morning I'll talk a little bit about matters relevant to our higher understanding and spiritual growth. And I've chosen for the theme 6 questions that every person should ask. I've talked on this theme before and titled it 5 questions, but I came up with the 6th one this morning. Inspiration and innovation, I presume. First question every person should ask is, what is God? Or what is that reality we call God? It has been given various names. The word God is derived from Old English, meaning the highest good. But others refer to God as Heavenly Father, or Source, or First Principle, or Lord, or Allah, and which means the All-Glorious One. These are various attempts to describe or to what people imagine, or perhaps partially intuitively grasp what that reality is. But of course it is formless and nameless. It is not a cosmic father figure, although some people like to pray to God as Father, or even as Mother. Makes them feel more comfortable. But in time they will outgrow that need to have that dependent attitude, relationship with that reality for what it is. So we should ask the question, what is God? And remember the advice of some of the Catholic mystics when contemplating that reality we call God. Put aside, at least temporarily, all of your concepts about it, and prepare yourself, open yourself to be able to see it, to discern it, to know it as it is, not as you have imagined it to be. Next question we should ask is, what is my true nature? By now you know the answer to that. Our true nature is essence, pure consciousness, identical to that, what we call supreme pure consciousness. We are individualized units of that. I'll not go into a long discussion on how individualization occurs, or how units are produced, not created, but produced by being individualized, but to say that the explanation found in yogic text is that interactions between what I call the radiant field, the expressive aspect of ultimate reality, and the Om vibration which it projects, interactions between the two individualized units of pure consciousness. And then these units, under the influence of inertia, become identified with and involved with manifestation to various degrees. I presume there are billions of souls, individualized, that have never become fully involved with the material level, matter level of the universe. And perhaps they're in rarefied realms referred to as celestial realms, or causal or astral energy realms. And perhaps they've never been physically incarnated. But we can deal today with people, with souls which are here embodied or incarnated. And then we have to ask the question, why am I here? Well, according to metaphysical theory, souls are attracted to environments and to circumstances which correspond with their mental states and states of consciousness. And not always their conscious mind states, but also their subconscious conditions. And so, if that is so, then this is where we belong for now. And we're not here because we're being punished. We're here because this is where we happen to be in the grand drama. But while we are here, we can be resolved to learn how to gracefully and progressively grow to emotional and spiritual maturity. And while we're here, we have to relate to our environment and learn to function effectively. And we do this by, one, using the knowledge and skills that we have efficiently. And by doing that, we improve our ability to function. We should also be able to learn how to have our life-enhancing desires easily fulfilled. And of course, we ought to have enough material stuff or the resources to enable us to accomplish what we want to accomplish, do what we want to do or need to do, so that we can live with relative ease in this world. So many people struggle, and they have a hard time. And of course, there are, 2 billion people on the planet, practically 1/3 of the people on the planet, who are living a barely survival level of existence. They're impoverished, and they don't have anything, and it's very difficult for them. And then there are many people in industrialized countries that are paying their bills and making do, getting by, but they're not really affluent. They're not really in the flow, and for them it's a matter of just plain hard work. So we should learn how to live more easily and freely in the world, so that we don't have to put up with all of the worry and the concerns that come with the difficulties. Next question should be, what should be my major purpose or aim in this life or this incarnation? It should be to be spiritually awake, to awaken through the stages of spiritual growth, from ordinary self-consciousness. By ordinary, I mean modified, conditioned consciousness, to superconsciousness, to self-realization, to God realization, and to liberation of consciousness. And I emphasize that one aspire to that ultimate good with the intention and the aspiration to realize it in this current incarnation. I am not one who says that do your best this time around, and perhaps when you come back, if you do, you'll be better off and you can start at an earlier age and continue on with your spiritual growth, or perhaps you can continue it in the hereafter. But I recommend being fully awake in this incarnation and having that as your aim. That is how Paramahansa Yogananda encouraged me. I mentioned the other day, when I first had my first interview with him in 1949, his final words to me during that session were, read a little, meaning inspirational, worthwhile material. Read a little and meditate more. Think of God all the time. About 3 weeks before he passed, I was visiting him at his desert retreat house in 29 Palms, California. And it was in the evening. We were in his living room of his small house, and he was sitting in a comfortable chair, one of the recliner-type chairs, where he could pull a little lever on the side and his feet would come up a little bit. And Mr. Lynn had given that to him as a Christmas present 2 years before. And he always had me sit very close to him, so my chair was right next to his chair. And we were together about an hour and a half. And he reminisced somewhat regarding his past experiences and experiences with his guru, Sri Yukteswar. He gave me some encouraging advice, some encouragement and advice. And the last instruction, the very last verbal instruction that he gave me as we concluded that time together was this. He said, "Don't allow your mind to be disturbed by what others do or don't do. And don't look back. And don't look to the right or to the left, but look straight ahead to the goal and go all the way in this incarnation, and you can do it." That was how he talked with me, in a very paternal way. So I emphasize, too, the ideal of being fully awake in this present time on the planet, this present sojourn, because you're not sure of the next realm. The only way to be sure that you're going to be conscious and functional when you depart this world is to be conscious and functional before you leave it. So you might want to write that on a piece of paper and put it in your meditation chamber. Many people, mystics of various traditions, but also in the yogic tradition, emphasize that meditation supported by right living and other practices is the best preparation for that eventual episode of departing from the body. Now, I don't want you to think every time you sit to meditate that you're cramming for your finals. But just remember, you want to be as conscious as possible. And you want to have your consciousness clear of all of the debris, the delusions, and the strange or erroneous opinions. And you want to be able to accurately perceive what you examine. You want to be a knower, not a believer or a speculator, but a knower. So I believe this should be the major aim or purpose of our lives. Now, how do we accomplish that? What can we do to allow it to be actualized, made real by our actions? First, we should acquire accurate knowledge of higher realities, so-called metaphysical realities, and of our true nature, and of laws of cause and effect. And then we should apply the knowledge that we acquire. And that's the way. So, really, when we examine the process, it's really not complicated, is it? First, you understand what ultimate reality is, what you are in relationship to it. You understand why you're here. You understand what your major purpose for being here is or should be, and how to accomplish that major purpose in your current incarnation. And then the sixth question, and every individual will have to answer this one, is, am I doing all that I know to do to easily and quickly experience the completion or fulfillment of my major purpose? Am I doing all the things I know to do? And many times we when we are self-honest, we have to admit that we know better than we do. Many people, we've perhaps all said it at one time or another, well, I know what to do, I just don't do it all the time. So when we know what we should do, then we should do it. And there's where intention and discipline comes in. It's not a matter of liking or disliking in the beginning, although once you get into the process, you enjoy it. You find it's very enjoyable to be disciplined, to be optimistic and cheerful and forward-looking, and to attend to your duties skillfully, and to acquire knowledge of higher realities, and to meditate profoundly. When you get to the stage, and I hope many of you are there, where you look forward to your daily meditation, that'll be a very, very helpful condition. When you look forward to meditating, not as an escape, not as withdrawal from harsh reality, or to get a buzz on, or to generate some pleasant feelings. But when you look forward to meditation as an opportunity to explore higher realities and to experience the illumination of consciousness, that'll be very helpful. Some of you have heard this story before, but we have some new folks here. Besides the regulars, it won't hurt the regulars to hear the story again. Regarding meditating to the stage of superconsciousness and beyond, and not settling for just getting to the stage of relaxation and having a pleasant emotional experience. On one of my visits during the first year, I was with Paramahansa Yogananda. We were walking around the perimeter of his property at 29 Palms. And when I went to see him, I never went with a lot of pressing questions. In fact, knowing that I was going to see him, I meditated more, and I wanted to be, as we used to say in church when I was growing up, I wanted to be prayed up, so that and looking good when I saw him. I didn't, and I went to be in his presence. And the Sanskrit word for that is darshan. It means literally the vision of or seeing divinity. And I just went to be in his presence, because when I was in his presence, I could sense omnipresence and power and wisdom. So I went, and in the early evening, we were walking around the perimeter of the property. It was this exercise period. And we had gone around 3 or 4 times. And then after a while, he was talking most of the time, sort of chatting with me. And then he was silent as we walked. And then he asked me a question. He asked, "Do you have any questions?" And one popped into my head. A week or so before, when I was in Phoenix, I had been perusing his book, Autobiography of a Yogi. And those of you who have read the book know that in it he included many accounts of his contacts with saintly people in his early years, in the early 1900s, when he was a young teenager. And the thought had popped into my head, I wonder how many of those people by now are spiritually enlightened, are liberated. And so I asked that question. And I'll never forget, we were strolling rather briskly, and just nonchalantly, he said, "Oh, not many." He said, "Many saints are satisfied to experience or to enjoy the bliss of God communion, and they don't aspire to go beyond that stage." And it's true, many people who have mystical experiences, authentic mystical perceptions and experiences, go so far, and there they stop. and they are content to be there. And they find it enjoyable, and it's probably long-term beneficial, but it is not liberating. It does not remove from their consciousness all of the stuff that modifies their mind and consciousness. It does not result in complete self and God realization. And so he said that, and then he said, but you must go all the way. He didn't really shake his finger, but he nodded in my direction. But so that's how he encouraged me. And it was very interesting. He very seldom asked me about my meditation practice or my schedule. Now and then he would ask, how do you do Kriya Pranayama? Or how do you do this technique or that technique? And I would show him, and then sometimes he'd give me some pointers on how to improve my practice. But usually he would just look at me and smile. And on one occasion he said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. That's probably because I was prayed up when I went. Hopefully glowing a little bit. And I never tried to impress him, of course. But believe that you can be spiritually awake in your current incarnation. Believe it. And avoid talking with people who try to talk you out of the idea. Oh, you can't do that. It takes incarnations. You've got too much karma. You're not very bright. I know you. You've got a lot of stuff to work out yet. Just don't talk to people who talk to you like that. Don't let them put that stuff in your head. And don't waste your time talking with people who like to talk like that. When I was in my teens and I read about the Buddha and some other enlightened individuals from books I obtained in the county library, something inside of me responded, and I felt I want to be like that. And I knew I could be like that. It could be like that for me. I knew it. I didn't have to ask anyone, is it possible? I knew it. And when I read information about yoga and yogic practices, it was like I was simply being reminded of what I already knew. It was like a refresher course. And when Yogananda explained certain things to me, or he talked at public functions or in informal group gatherings, I could understand what he was saying. He said one time during an informal gathering of disciples, he said, when he said something, someone said, "Oh, I understand that, sir." And he smiled and he said, "It pleases me when you understand what I say. It pleases me even more when you understand without my having to say it." In the guru-disciple relationship in the yoga tradition, it is said that the mental and spiritual attunement between guru and disciple is as important, if not more important, than physical proximity. Because once the disciple has been instructed and knows the basic philosophical principles and lifestyle and spiritual practice routines, although the physical closeness and relationship is enjoyable, it is not always necessary. The important thing is, for once we know what to do, is to do it. Although, whenever I visited Paramahansaji, before I departed to go back to Phoenix, he would invariably say, "Stay in tune with me." He meant mentally and spiritually. Stay in tune with me. And when you're in tune with me, I can help you. And when you're not in tune, it's like having mental static It's like having static in the mental radio, and it's more difficult to help you. So stay in tune. And I got to the place where I was in Phoenix, 400 plus or so miles from Los Angeles, in between my visits to California. And I had a sense of his consciousness, not his presence in the room, watching me, talking to me, but a sense of his consciousness and a presence while I was in Phoenix, 400 miles distant. And of course, it doesn't have to be limited to 400 miles, In common usage today among metaphysicians is the word non-local, that at one level, at the unconfined, non-ego identified level, we are omnipresent because we are units of that one reality which is omnipresent, infinite, boundless, without limits. And so at one level of our essence, we are like that already. So at that level, we don't have to think in terms of distance, points in space. It's just present reality in this wholeness. So these are the 6 questions to ask. And the last one is very important. Am I doing all that I can do to most easily and quickly accomplish my major purpose in life, which is to be spiritually awake or liberated? And as I mentioned the other day, we don't have to be cloistered, secluded in a monastic environment, far removed from activity. You remember the story, or autobiography of a yogi, where Paramahansaji, he was young, very young, about 17, 18, shortly after he met Sri Yukteswar. And as a young boy, he always wanted to go to the Himalayas and find a cave and meditate in seclusion. So after being with Sri Yukteswar only a short time, he asked if he could go to the Himalayas and find a secluded area and devote himself entirely to meditation. Sri Yukteswar said, "I don't think you'll find God in the mountains." But he didn't say no. So he departed, headed north. He was misdirected by well-meaning people when he asked how to get to the next destination along the way. Finally tired, at the end of one day, he came to this small village and got lucky. Happened to meet a spiritually advanced disciple of Larimashaya who was living there, who at the time was in seclusion in a small hut and in the past had meditated up to 18 hours a day. And he told him of his aspiration. And the saintly person, who happened to be Sri Yukteswar's brother disciple, said, back at the ashram, back at Yukteswar's ashram, do you have a room where you can go to and close the door? He said, yes, I do. He said, well, that can be your cave. Why don't you go home? So he gave him some food and had him stay the night, and Yogananda went back. And when he got back to the ashram, he approached Sri Yukteswar, and he was ashamed of himself for having left. And he said, Guruji, I know I must have disappointed you. And Sri Yukteswar was not your mamby-pamby type of guru. He said, how could I be disappointed when I have no expectations? Well, didn't you miss me a little bit? But then a few days later, you recall in the book, in the autobiography, a few days later, the moment was right, and Sri Yukteswar was able to assist him to experience his first dramatic experience in what he called cosmic consciousness, a transcendent state of consciousness. So he didn't have to go to the Himalayas after all. He was right there at home. So right where we are, you're married, you have family, maybe you're retired, you have a house, you have an apartment. Someplace you have, in your abode, you have a place where you can be alone, hopefully. And you can go there and meditate. Might be in the basement or the attic or just a room down the hall someplace, or your den or the office, depending on the configuration of where you live. But I would find a place. I recommend having a place set aside exclusively for meditation practice. Now you can meditate effectively anywhere it's quiet, but I like having a place where I go every day, so that when I go there, I know why I am there. That's the only thing I do there, or in that chair. That is my meditation chair. That is my meditation place. And I won't go into, get into elaborate theories about, you meditate there, you charge it with spiritual energy from the Shakti just vibrates and all that. It's just a nice reminder that you're there for one purpose, to temporarily withdraw your attention from all external matters, flow your attention to the infinite and your relationship with it, and to realize your essence. That's why you are there. You're not there to solve problems, not there to be concerned about anyone else during that little time. You're there for one reason: to detach your attention from everything that doesn't allow you to easily experience that reality of what you are. And you do it on a regular schedule. And when you're not meditating and you're about your daily routine, be cheerful and friendly and kind and considerate and so forth. In fact, others who don't know you shouldn't even know that you're on a spiritual path. So you don't dramatize piety. Why, I'm holy. See my beads? I wonder, you're wondering why I wear them, don't you? And so on. Hopefully others will perceive you as being a decent, nice, decent, friendly person, but they don't have to know about your spiritual aspirations. Now and then someone will write me or email me and ask, do you have any CSA members in my neck of the woods? I don't know a living soul in my area who's interested in the things I'm interested in. And if I know them well enough and communication is flowing, I sometimes say, only partially in jest, you're lucky. Because the spiritual path is really a path of aloneness. Now, I didn't say loneliness, but the path of aloneness, because it is what you are involved with. You can't take others with you. It's nice if you have friends who share your philosophical views and engage in their own practices, and that's nice. But you don't want to have a dependent attitude. I need their support. Without it, I just can't make it. Of course you can make it. You can be self-motivated. You can be inspired. You can have the inbreathing, inflowing of a larger reality. Main thing is to be self-reliant, with an uppercase S now. Self-reliant from the essence, from your essence. I like the line in one of Ralph Waldo Emerson's essays, that self-reliance is reliance on God, reliance on the source.